just passed Peyton Manning in passing touchdowns. And I think he already had passed him in passing yards. So at this moment, at this time, I think it's all undeniable that Drew Brees is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But there's more to the Drew Brees story that meets the eye that I think tells a good story about why you should not be so quick to judge young quarterbacks. See, a lot of people think they know everything about a quarterback after a bad game, after a bad season. But that's not true. We know about the infamous Peyton Manning bad rookie year, right? And that's always the stock example that is always gone with when it comes to a young quarterback struggling. We always go to that one. And I think it's only fitting that Drew Brees had to pass Peyton Manning in these categories in order for this point to be made more clearly. And this point goes for any young quarterback, whether it's Mitchell Trubisky, whether it's Sam Darnold, whether it's Baker Mayfield, which obviously is going to be the example I'm going to go with here because the bulk of this audience are Browns fans, and they are interested by default on Baker Mayfield. And a lot of people who watch this channel, regardless of their fandom, have strong opinions about Baker Mayfield one way or the other. Now, obviously, I have made it clear where I stand with Baker Mayfield. I do think Baker Mayfield in due time will be one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. Nothing has changed on that front. But a lot has changed for a lot of people during this season. A lot has changed for a lot of people, or a lot more people feel vindicated on what they thought pre-draft that they didn't say last year that they now can say this year without the threat of looking silly to the rest of the public. When honestly, if that's your opinion, you should have just stuck with that even when the guy was playing good. But Drew Brees, his career is interesting. He has one of the most interesting starts to a career. As we all know, we're going to remember Drew Brees as a New Orleans Saints, but most of us know that Drew Brees started his career as a San Diego Charger. He was the first pick in the second round in 2000. He was drafted by a man named John Butler. That same draft, the Chargers drafted LaDainian Tomlinson and Drew Brees. And in Drew Brees' first year, he did not play. He got, I think, a half a game in where he didn't even start, but he did not play. Then in Drew Brees' second year, he played the entire season, went 8-8, had a 17-16 touchdown interception ratio, which isn't great, but had a winning record, a 500 record as a rookie. Not bad. A 500 record as a rookie and, a positive touchdown interception ratio. It's not bad. But then in Drew Brees' third year, a couple things happened. John Butler, the GM who drafted LaDainian Tomlinson and Drew Brees, died in the offseason. He got cancer. He died in the offseason and was replaced by a man named A.J. Smith. And also in 2003, his second year playing, his third year in the league, Drew Brees had an awful year. Drew Brees played terribly. He only threw for 2,000 yards, had 11 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, and went 2-9. And then he got benched. So since the original GM that drafted him died, there is a new GM who probably wanted to draft his own quarterback to begin with, and now is even more encouraged to because of a couple factors. One, the 2004 draft was loaded with quarterbacks. Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger. That draft is a classic draft for the number of quarterbacks that they had. And Drew Brees played terribly the season before, and honestly, Drew Brees hasn't shown that he was Drew Brees yet. So instead of taking a chance on a guy that was drafted by somebody else in the second round, the San Diego Chargers decided that they were going to draft a quarterback. So much so that they were willing to draft Eli Manning, even though Eli Manning did not want to go there. And then once Eli Manning made that known, they were willing to draft him anyways to make a trade to get Phillip Rivers. Now, fortunately for the Chargers, Phillip Rivers turned out to be a good quarterback. But what happened that season after they drafted Phillip Rivers was Drew Brees turned into Drew Brees. He went 11-5, threw for 3,000 yards, had a 27-7 touchdown to interception ratio. Drew Brees turned into Drew Brees, or what he was going to be, the exact season that the Chargers gave up on him. So now the Chargers are in a pickle, right? They have a quarterback who just won Comeback Player of the Year, but mind you, he won Comeback Player of the Year without getting injured because he was that bad the year before. And they just drafted a dude by default number 1 overall. So, it didn't matter what Drew Brees did in his 5th year. He was gone. They weren't going to re-sign him. And to make things worse, Drew Brees got injured. So it made it an easy decision for the San Diego Chargers to walk away. Now, what could have been if Drew Brees had shown he was Drew Brees maybe a year earlier? What could have been if the Chargers had believed in Drew Brees and stuck with him? They would replace one fringe Hall of Fame guy with a lock Hall of Fame guy. Now, see, let's take this back to our modern day example in Baker Mayfield. He had an excellent rookie year, some people's standards. He broke the rookie touchdown record. And then he has had, so far, a bad second season. Now, this is actually a trend so common that it has a name, the sophomore slump. It's something that happens a lot in sports. But in today's kind of microwave generation, where people want instant and long-term analysis about an entire guy's career after just a few games of evidence, some people have already deemed him a bust or deemed him trash or deemed him this. And let's be honest, if you consider how rapid we make these long-term proclamations about a quarterback's future a problem, Baker Mayfield is not the only quote-unquote victim in that situation. Mitchell Trubisky was called garbage, trash, they need to move on. He's the worst thing ever. Had a good game. Mitchell Trubisky, everybody better apologize about everything bad they ever said about Mitchell Trubisky because he had a good game. Then he had 2 good games and all the cries got louder. But then if Mitchell Trubisky has one bad game, boom, back again. Mitchell Trubisky is trash. Let's go even further. This year's MVP, Lamar Jackson, after he played the Chargers last year and the Chargers, quote, figured him out, everybody in the offseason, a lot of people in the offseason, a lot of people who are Ravens fans in the offseason talked about how trash he was. They shouldn't have traded Joe Flacco. They should have kept Flacco on this team. He's a traditional quarterback. He's going to work. This Lamar Jackson thing was a flash in the pan. It got figured out in the league. They better give up on it. Let's fast forward to now and see those Joe Flacco stands in Baltimore wearing a Lamar Jackson jersey. So this isn't a Baker Mayfield problem. This isn't, Quincy's just making a video because he's mad about how people talk about. Nobody is talking about Baker Mayfield anymore because he's irrelevant this season and he deserves to be irrelevant with how he has played. I don't care if people say bad things about Baker Mayfield. I'm more irritated in how quick we make judgments on young quarterbacks. Daniel Jones was compared to Tom Brady this year after one good game. Is anybody still comparing Daniel Jones to Tom Brady? No. Gardner Minshew. People were talking about Gardner Minshew as if he was the next franchise quarterback. Kyle Allen. People were talking about Kyle Allen as if he was going to be anything bigger than Kyle Allen. And obviously there are silly ones like Duck Hodges, but that was just a meme, to be honest. I don't think people genuinely thought that Duck Hodges was going to be a next great franchise quarterback. You could tell by watching him on the field what that whole deal was. But, Duck Hodges, I consider that more of a meme than people actually pushing serious hype behind a guy. But even somebody who is as detested as Mason Rudolph in the city of Cleveland, at the very least, and in the city of Pittsburgh, who had those 2 bad games, I wouldn't give up on Mason Rudolph as an NFL quarterback yet. I still don't think Deshaun Kaiser deserves to be given up on as fast as the NFL gave up on him. The reason the NFL consistently has a young quarterback problem is because people refuse to take time for a young quarterback to develop. They refuse to sit through the growing pains that a young quarterback is going to give you. And what that leads us to is a lot of Case Keenums. You know, a lot of guys who are what they are. You know, Gardner Minshew, he is what he is. He's not going to have a great ceiling, but he's not going to have a super low floor. Look at what Ryan Tannehill is doing now for the Tennessee Titans. Look at how good he has been since he got a better environment, a better offensive line behind him. Look at the difference that's made in his play. See, quarterbacks aren't this end-all, be-all, fix-it switch. They aren't going to fix it by themselves. You know, maybe some guys come along that can. Andrew Luck's one of them that I've seen that can just fix everything by just being there. Deshaun Watson's another guy who fixes a lot just by being there. There are a lot of quarterbacks who are just going to take time to be what they're going to be for the rest of their career. And as NFL fans, and I honest to God don't care what team you cheer for, we are all doing ourselves a disservice by being so quick on these young quarterbacks.